Welcome back to Weekend Breakfast with me, David Bull. I'm joined by the wife, Dr. Renee Hunderkamp. So 2 doctors for the price of 1. At least you can see one. Anyway, that was a cheap gag. So this has come in from a junior doctor, actually. I can't actually get access to buildings. I can't even go to the loo, let alone get food. If I'm on call at 3 o'clock, I can't even access a public toilet. It's absolutely outrageous.
It is.
Good grief, this one says that union rep looks about 14. I wouldn't be confident in their abilities to treat me, and that and his expression. This one says, and I've had a couple of this, saying, David, they're not junior doctors anymore. They're now called doctors in trailing. They have been for some years, and that includes up to senior registrar. I don't think that's done.
No, I think they've tried to change this title and it just doesn't stick. And the thing is, doctor in training actually sounds like it's somebody who's not a doctor. They're training to be a doctor. So this has always been the problem with this title.
Yeah, I agree. Lots and lots of other lovely ones. Ricardo, David and Rennie always look fantastic. It's very kind.
you.
I suggest Specsavers. Thank you very much for all of those. Also, lots of others. And this is, I think, Brendan Silver, good morning, one of our regulars, saying, junior doctor strikes will cause resentment as they cannot deny poorly people will pay for this pay rise with their lives. Every month I look at my accounts and I want a refund on my tax and national insurance. Once again, it's the poor, it's the working classes that will suffer the most. Yeah. Keep all of those coming in, please. 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Really interested to know your thoughts on the junior doctor strike. Also, is Rishi Sunak about to sell us out? I have a nasty feeling about what's going to happen. I think this may happen as early as tomorrow. But now, time for the papers, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by the gorgeous Claire Muldoon.
Good morning.
How are you?
How are you?
Very well indeed.
Good, excellent.
Lots going on in the papers this morning.
There are actually, which you wouldn't for a change, and quite a few of the papers in terms of spread are covering completely different stories.
Aren't they?
So for a few months now, even a year, that's really not been the case, because it's always been solidly, the front pages have always been the same, apart from the Daily Star, which always features aliens of some sort. However, this weekend the broadsheets have gone for Sunak, obviously, with the Euro deal, with the backstop in Ireland, what's going to go on. But I'm going to start with the front page of the Eye, because they say that Starmer is on course for a landslide victory. God help us if that is the case. Labour are currently heading for Tony Blair-style win. Of course, he had the landslide election win when he got in power. Opposition holds a 17-point lead. What do they mean by opposition? Because as far as I'm concerned, on both sides of the House at the moment, they're all as bad as each other.
They are.
There is absolutely nothing there, notwithstanding what's going on in Scotland at the moment, obviously with...
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that
We have
head-to-head.
to.
Yeah.
You know, it's just... I mean, none of the papers, incidentally, have covered that anyway.
No, that's right. It's in the Telegraph, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, let's get back to Starmer. So voters say they now prefer Labour on crime and Brexit, as well as housing.
Well, I mean, the Brexit thing's ridiculous, because I don't believe that
NHS
for a
and
minute.
cost of living. Well, most of Labour wanted to remain.
And still do.
And still do. But here's the interesting thing. So the other day we had Keir Starmer, didn't we, setting out his vision. And it was
like a salad bowl.
It was
like a salad bowl of, let's bring in this, let's sprinkle a bit of that. God, it could have been Jamie Oliver giving us a recipe for disaster.
But actually, every single thing required the question, well, how?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there was no how.
But he said, I want the world to be a beautiful place.
Don't we all?
Yes, of course, and everyone, there's nothing there I can disagree with, because it was lovely.
Yes.
It was the smorgasbord of nonsense.
Yes, very good words.
It would be like me saying I want the junior doctors to have a 40% pay increase tomorrow. Of course, everybody would like that.
Yes.
But how?
Yes.
But
So very interesting about this, if they are on course for this. I mean, the thing is, I think that poll lead is really soft, actually. I think that the
it was 1,500 adults aged between 20...
so that's quite a small sample size.
Online.
Yeah.
Within 1 week in February.
How old were they?
Just this past week. Sorry, it was the date I was looking at, not the age.
Well, so actually, if you look, and on the front page of That's interesting.
What?
Well, so there's lots of things here, and I just have to be slightly careful how I say this. But what has become apparent, if you look at the red wall seats, for example,
Yeah.
the latest poll put Reform UK at 10,
Uh-huh.
and so that makes them third. So that's what I mean. There's a lot of flux
Yes.
here.
There is.
But actually, pretty much all of this, not all of it, but a lot of it is down to the Conservative Party self-imploding yet again.
Yet again. And actually, many of the stories today evidence that, don't they? With the shenanigans behind the scenes over this Brexit deal.
I mean, it is extraordinary, isn't it? They're ripping themselves apart. Boris Johnson's popped up again this morning, so's Priti Patel. I think Sunak's in a lot of trouble.
He's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
He really, really is.
But why don't they see it? Why don't they see what they're doing to themselves? Are they just incapable
Or do they not
of
listen?
coming
Are they
together?
so narcissistic, right, that they just, I mean, Sunak clearly wanted the job and would have done anything to get it. Clearly he did. And there's this cesspit of, adulation of, professing undying love and respect to the leader and to whoever they want in power.
Yeah.
When we've spoken about this often,
We
I
have.
think, the career politician has to end.
So do
that
I.
course, that discourse of narrative has to end. And we've said as well that the MPs have to be in situ in their constituencies in order for them to do a job.
Well, I did chuckle when I read the Telegraph this morning, and they said that all MPs have been told to be in the Houses of Parliament on Monday. Well, should they not be in the Houses of Parliament?
in any
anyway?
event.
So it's a three-line whip
Whip,
on Monday,
yeah.
and that's to do with the Northern Ireland Protocol.
Yes.
Which is as soon as I voted for Brexit, as you both know, but as soon as this vote came out that Cameron dumped on the country, it's his mess, I said, there's one big overriding fact here that everyone is overlooking, and that is Northern Ireland.
100%. But also, let's go back to Keir Starmer and this story.
Yeah.
So I don't know what Starmer stands for, because one minute he says, I'm pro-Brexit. The next minute he's talking about dynamic alignment with the European Union. Now, they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah. And that's the scary thing, and that's what people need to realise. Firstly, I don't think Starmer is a man of conviction. I really don't. He doesn't give me that feeling. And we actually want now someone of conviction. We want somebody to stand up, say, this is a mess, this is what we are going to do. And if the EU don't like it, that's tough.
Also on that, on talking about the Scottish leadership campaign at the moment, Kate Forbes, who has come out and said
quite
what you
her.
can and can't do, but she is being absolutely and utterly pilloried.
She is.
She was a bit clumsy with her first statement about gay marriage, I think. I know we're deviating here, but I think
we are.
if she'd have come out and said, you know what, I would not have voted for gay marriage. However, I fully respect anyone living in love in that and the law.
100%. And also, you see, I understand that. And it's a matter of personal conscience. I think it was a free vote, for example. But also, I mean, and let's talk about it now that we're talking about it. I mean, it is a fantastic car crash in Scotland, isn't it? I know, obviously, we've now got Ash Regan, who basically then said, well, if the SNP wins the election, we'll just remove Scotland from the United Kingdom. You can't do that,
love.
It's constitutionally not possible.
No.
On any level.
I actually think Forbes, of all of the candidates, is the one who's looking the most sensible at the moment. And actually, I'm going to say this, I am not religious, as you know, but I am somebody who values family values.
Yes.
And I looked at Kate Forbes this week and I thought, I actually think maybe it's time to have somebody who has the values that her religion brings to her.
Yes, and brings the moral compass to underpin her as a human being.
So interestingly, Hamza Yousaf, of course, which is the other big contender, when they had the vote on same-sex marriage, he conveniently wasn't there because he was worried about what the imams would say.
Yes,
so again, religion playing a role again, but actually Kate Forbes, as you rightly say, at least was upfront about it.
And Ash Regan, to give her dues, I thought she would have had the whip removed because she had the audacity to stand up to their leader, Nicola Sturgeon, for the whole transgender recognition reform bill.
I mean, if they thought that Nicola Sturgeon going was going to lead to some sort of continuity candidate to an upswell in the SNP, that's exactly
There was
right.
no succession, David. There was no planning, which would indicate to me that Sturgeon was actually pushed, and she wasn't going of her own volition. Something smells in the state of Denmark.
Do you think something's about to emerge?
I hope so. I hope so. I really hope so, and I hope it comes with handcuffs.
£600,000 worth of donations, I'm missing.
Yes, and the £295,000 book deal money that she hasn't got. Plus the ferry disaster.
I was about to say, in the ferries.
Yes,
that
and the
went
ferries.
well, didn't it?
Yeah. Cal
They still don't have.
where?
They still haven't. The Cal where? They haven't got a ferry still, have they?
Oh.
I mean, honestly.
I was in Glasgow last weekend, and I'll tell you, it is my city, and I love it. But the
it's a fun city.
the infrastructure is dire. It's expensive. You cannot get anywhere.
Yeah.
Is
It's
it really?
really, really poor. And everyone looks so forlorn. Everyone looks so sad.
The weather is really...
Oh, the weather. I mean, that's partly the reason, one of the reasons why
Look, we've gone completely off course.
Sorry,
here.
sorry, that's my
so
fault.
now we've done Labour.
Yes.
But I mean, it will be very interesting, of course, the local elections. That will be very interesting as well.
And you're talking about the red wall and why, and if, the Reform Party can actually keep it together. And I hope and trust in God you can.
So well, I think also Starmer's view is the less I say, the better.
Well, that's everyone's view, because you don't want to be tripped up, do you?
No.
Yeah, he just wants to walk
It's
into
that
number 10.
sound bite.
Yeah.
We've spoken about this often, about social media and everyone being an authority on something that they want to talk about.
So does this lead nicely into Sunak and the Brexit deal?
Oh, well, it could do. Would you want to do that? Let's do that next. I'm glad you missed a story, but okay.
Well, that's the fun story.
Well, no,
We've got the Dahl.
Oh, that's the fun one. All right, fine. I see what you're doing.
Okay,
Fine.
so let's go to...
All right, let's talk about Sunak.
Yes.
Good
So
plan.
that's the
This
Daily
is the Daily
Telegraph.
Telegraph, babe.
Yeah,
Actually,
and the Times.
It's not that. It's the Telegraph. It's on
It's
the
a lot of
Times.
it. It's on the
Times.
It's in the Guardian. It's front page on all of those.
Yeah. Telegraph.
Right, so Sunak to secure
see
new
them.
Brexit deal. What's King Charles doing in all of this?
Well-
Meeting Ursula von der Leyen?
So,
He's
I
not
can
now,
explain
but
where we are.
please do, because I would love to know.
So, from my perspective, this is highly choreographed. They've had this deal for at least a week.
Yes.
So Sunak thinks he has squared all 7 points that the DUP came up with, which he hasn't, by the way, and we will discuss that later.
7-star pentacle, you mean?
But he hasn't got any of that. He says the British government is saying we have made significant progress. Well, I don't believe them for a start.
Yes,
Secondly,
I
you've
tend
got
to agree.
cleverly with Mara Sefcovic. Now, what they're also
Where
going.
did he come from?
Well, so the thing is, the EU, and look, I worked there. I worked in the European
Yes.
Parliament. Will not sign up to anything that doesn't suit the EU. And the fundamental bit about this is the European Court of Justice.
Yes.
How on earth do we allow the ECJ to have jurisdiction on a sovereign country?
But that was part of the subsidiarity of the fact of why I voted for Brexit in the first instance.
Of course.
It was nothing to do with anything else other than we have to govern ourselves, and we cannot be beholden to a set of
But
other
Boris
countries.
Johnson was the one that signed us up to
He
it.
was. Deep in the text of that Telegraph article, by the way, talking of James Cleverly, he actually says, we will not sign anything that the DUP won't vote for. Now, the DUP won't vote for the European Court of Judicial
rights.
No.
Having any say in Northern Ireland
won't.
at all. Therefore, this is dead in the water if it still includes it.
So the government is going to spin this and say it's arm's length, and therefore there will be... What they'll try and spin, I think, is to say British courts have supremacy, apart from when they don't.
Yeah. But the DUP are not stupid, are they? They're not going to go for that.
And look, I spoke to a couple of members of the DUP over the last few days, and they're keeping their powder dry. They're waiting to see the text. What is fascinating is Ursula von der Leyen, who you mentioned, she's being lined up to come and have a golden handshake.
Yeah.
This is a stitch-up.
Yeah. It is. And actually, if you look at it, it looks like they've actually known about this deal for weeks, not just a week. And they've just been trying to work out a way to
get it
package it up with a nice big red bow on it.
Do you know what? I've got a bit of an idea here, right? If she is coming over, why don't we put her on business class so she gets 32 kg and she can bring tomatoes and cucumbers over and stock our shelves that I don't believe are actually as empty as people say they are. Can I just say?
Well, no.
Controversial.
Well, also, they can't get tomatoes either.
But do you know why we can't get tomatoes?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I do, because...
It's because the prices went up across Europe.
Well, also the weather in Europe.
And the weather in Europe. But no, the Sainsbury's managing director or CEO actually said on an interview I heard in in the week. The prices went up. The UK supermarkets were like, no, we're not going to pay the increased prices. Europe said, yes, thank you very much, we'll have all of those tomatoes. When the supermarkets finally gave in, they were gone.
There's also one other point, which is energy is so expensive here that we have great tomato growers in this country. They can't afford to grow their tomatoes in hydroponic greenhouses.
In the winter.
Yeah, in the winter.
Is there supposed to be a trade deal with Morocco? Is that happening or something like
Yeah,
that?
but they had
Morocco
terrible
seems
weather.
to be coming up
They had
into
terrible
the...
weather.
Yeah, they all had terrible weather. So that, but what the British farmers are saying is actually, as things improve, as we come into spring, things should get better. But I mean, so it is extra. We're living in very extraordinary. But watch
times.
Tomorrow, because I have a nasty feeling that's the big exclusive on all the Sundays will be what this deal is. And the worry is when you look at these headlines. And actually, to be fair to the Guardian, PM set to deal post-Brexit deal in a big political gamble. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's the gamble of his life.
I think it's going to be the end of him.
So do I.
I hope so. But also the other worrying thing, and I don't mean to be, morbid or anything in this, but the attack on the policeman in Omagh by the new IRA. I'm sorry, but that is
The timing.
It's so the timing of it. These terrorists will use anything at all.
But of course they sense weakness, don't they? So,
They'll sniff it out and they'll go for it.
I agree.
But the one thing I thought was good was all the political parties were there and all denounced it together.
They did, and Sinn Féin. I thought the Sinn Féin leader was an excellent speech, actually.
I agree. Let's move on. We're running out of time.
Let's do the Times page 5.
So I've been talking about Roald Dahl the whole
Have you?
time. Yeah, because
Do you
of
not want
course.
to talk about it
No, let's
anymore
talk
then?
about it because basically they got the publishers got themselves in a complete
They did.
mess, didn't they?
They did, because the company that suggested edits to Roald Dahl's work includes an array of inclusion ambassadors. I mean, I ask you, who vet the work of authors?
These are sensitivity readers.
How dare they? And how do you audition to become a sensitivity reader? What attributes do you need?
Really
Can you
good.
imagine the CV? Can you imagine it?
But you see, this is all for those people. If you haven't heard this story, this is all about Oompa Loompas who are no longer small, by the way. Also, there are passages in there where Roald Dahl actually wrote that he stole the Oompa Loompas, or he took them with him to the chocolate factory, and now they went of their own volition. Also, Augustus Gloop isn't incredibly fat; he's now enormous.
Which I think is even more insulting. Enormous.
Yes.
Imagine being
Also,
enormous.
you can't turn white with pallor because you're frightened anymore, and you can't wear a black cloak.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
And I'm
come
afraid,
on.
the big friendly giant requires a big black cloak. It's essential.
The BFG.
I mean, it's de rigueur wear.
It flies behind him.
Does it?
As he runs at speed, of course.
I used to love reading to the children. Every single night there would be bath and reading, and I'd have a glass of wine. And the laughter.
Was it one
just-
glass?
It was one bottle.
I knew.
Because I've got 4 children, don't forget.
Oh, yeah,
Took me a
That
while.
drives you to drink.
Took me a while. But, this Dahl publisher will put originals back in print, thank goodness,
Thank
because
goodness.
we don't need any more of this.
Well, so, and they're also going to put this in under Penguin Classics, I
Classics.
think. Or,
So this is People Power has done this, and
Puffin.
obviously Camilla
sorry.
intervening this week.
well, we don't know that it was about that, do we? But she said that there should be literary freedom.
Artists must never be
Yeah,
restricted.
yeah,
So
brilliant.
it was brilliant.
It was, but also the other awful thing is new authors that are writing books now are screened. The editors are there to screen, to check,
But you see-
to make. How can you censor literature?
But
how can you?
But Rennie made a brilliant point. Was it last weekend? I think it was about children love expressive
They do,
language.
they do.
They love what was the
So fizz poppers.
no Fizz Wizards.
Fizz Wizards, which is what Alice. She just looks up at me when I
Yeah.
say the words in BFG, and she
Yeah.
just laughs.
Yeah.
She
And
loves
children love bodily functions,
It's
and they
naughty.
love all of
Yeah.
that stuff,
Yeah.
and it is naughty. And describing a garrulous old crone or whatever
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
as a
yeah,
woman,
yeah.
you understand what the author's getting at.
Granny's mouth was like a puckered up dog's bottom.
Was it really?
According to Roald Dahl, it was.
Let's
Have
carry
we
on.
got time to do the star?
Yes, we have,
okay.
because if the Conservative Party wasn't in enough trouble.
Oh, I quite like Theresa. I really
Come
do.
on then, tell us about
I
Theresa
do.
Coffey.
I don't even think I've got the star in with me. But Theresa Coffey. Oh, it's in the Mirror as well.
It is.
So we've
I
got
thought she gave a very good speech, actually.
sweet and sour. Theresa Coffey will always be, I think a lot of her speech was taken out and misrepresented. I think the optic of the speech was completely...
well, I listened to the actual speech and it was very good, I thought.
Yes, I thought too.
Yeah.
But the sound bites and the takeouts
Yeah.
from it really weren't. Yeah, if you want more money, if you're trying, work some more hours. That really was not what
It
she
was
said.
not. And she was very calm and she was very measured.
As she is.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't come across well,
No,
did it?
not at all. And all this sweet and sour. Fruit and veg crisis, men are check shelves. Of course they do. At the end of the unusually bursting fruit and veg aisle, an elderly man is eyeing up a sad-looking solid cucumber. Now, we wouldn't be able to say that now for Puffin. Anyway, Teresa Coffey, this is all obviously because Teresa Coffey's now said, eat turnips as an alternative. I mean, the woman, she calamity Coffey, they call it. But she just thinks, from the hip, and she speaks from the hip.
Turnips seem to be in short supply.
Don't
I heard that this
say
morning.
that.
No, I heard it this morning. Everyone's run out and bought a turnip.
Well, we used to use turnips instead of pumpkins for
They're
lanterns
very easy
at
to
Halloween.
grow, by the way.
Oh, are they?
Of course they are.
They're not very
What do
easy
you
to
do with a turnip? Stew them?
No.
Soup, stew, anything like a tagine, you
But
can
that's
roast
if,
them.
that's if you can get into them because
Yes.
they're quite hard.
They're hard to get into.
You're very glamorous. So tagine?
Tagine.
With the turnip.
Who makes a tagine?
Me.
Oh, okay. Do you make tagine?
I don't have a tagine. Do
I
you have a
do.
tagine? Oh, what's it called? What's the tagine thing called? Is it a
It's
tagine?
a tagine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right, okay.
Is it Moroccan?
Yes.
Yes, I thought so.
Yes.
But on this
Look at me
note,
knowing that.
there's a great Matt cartoon today who always sums it up beautifully of somebody at a bar leaning on the bar saying, "I'll have a gin and tonic and a slice of parsnip, please."
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, it's just, I mean, obviously, it's fantastic headlines, but I have noticed that and I popped to a local supermarket, partly because I never leave this building, but I haven't been able to buy broccoli for at least a week.
Buy it frozen, get it
Thank you.
delivered online.
So I have bags
Yeah.
of frozen
It's much
cauliflower,
cheaper as well.
broccoli. It's cheaper, and actually, when you're feeding
Fresher.
kids, you just pop it in the saucepan for a couple of minutes.
Doesn't
and it's
taste the
done.
same.
It does.
does.
And actually, it's
Okay.
proven that if they're fast
I know it has.
frozen,
I know it has
Because
more
there are more
vitamins.
nutrients and vitamins than the fresh stuff.
No, I agree, and also frozen peas, love.
yes,
And frozen spinach, which is great because they come in these wee pellets.
with some smoked haddock.
Fabulous. Yes.
Lovely. Oh, by the way, just before you go,
Yes,
and I'm
what?
afraid time is up.
Oh,
Time is up.
gosh.
You said you were bringing wine today.
I did.
Did you?
Well, no, because no. I'll tell you
doesn't
why.
like you.
I'll tell you why. Because neither of you responded. And
I did.
thought we were
No,
having
Rennie
a wee
did, because I saw it.
thought we were having a wee party.
I did.
So we'll just need to put it in for the next time.
We will.
Absolutely.
Claire, always a pleasure. Thank you so
Lovely.
much.
Thank you very much,
No,
David.
it's been lovely to have you. Thank you very much indeed. That's Claire Muldoon there, talking over this morning's papers. Right. After the break, I'm delighted to say Mr. Tom Clayton has bothered to come back from his holidays. We're doing Tom Clayton's sporting weekend after this break.